morning, everybody.
Good morning a todos.
Welcome to City Hall, welcome
Bienvenidos
to
al City
Council
Hall,
Chambers, and
bienvenidos al
welcome to a
Concilio de
meeting of the Los
Bienvenidos a la
Angeles
Junta
City
del
Council for
Concilio de
today,
Iglesia
Wednesday,
para ahora,
August 6,
miércoles, agosto
2003.
6,
City
2003.
Council meets every
El Concilio se
Tuesday,
junta todos
Wednesday, and
martes y
Friday
miércoles y
at 10
viernes a las 10 de
a.m.
la mañana,
or as close to it
o
as
tan cerca como
possible.
sea posible.
Meetings are open to the
Las juntas
public,
están
and we do
abiertas para el
invite you to
público.
join
Invitamos
us.
a que estén
For
con
members of the
nosotros para
public
miembros del
unable to
público que no
attend
pueden
council
asistir.
meetings, we can be
Las
viewed
juntas
live
del
on your
Concilio
cable
pueden ser
station,
visto
channel
en vivo, el canal
35. We can
35.
also be viewed
Pueden
live
ser
via
visto por vía
webcast
la
from the city's
página
homepage
de
or
la
via
ciudad o
council
es
phone.
por el teléfono.
Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Cardenas, Garcetti, Gruel, Hahn, Labange, Ludlow, Miskowski, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Smith, Villaraigosa, White, Sign, Padilla, 10 members present, and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much for starting business,
Gracias por
please.
la de negocios.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Parks moves and Ms. Hahn seconds.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Ludlow moves and Mr. White seconds.
Before beginning the regular agenda, Mr. President, there are some items to be continued. There's a request to continue item 3 to August 8th.
Colleagues request to continue item number 3 without objection, so ordered.
There's also been a request to continue item 4 to August 12th.
Colleagues request to continue item number 4 also without objection. And Mr. Clerk, before proceeding to the next item, let me just make the announcement to members of the public who are here on item number 4. We will not be acting on this item today. We do invite you back on August 12th when we consider this item again. And before proceeding to the next item, let me recognize Councilmember Weiss for a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning,
Buenos días, colegas.
colleagues. I'm here today with
Estoy
a
aquí
familiar
con
face
una cara
who,
familiar.
unfortunately, but fortunately for the nation, is going to be moving on. With me today is Steve Fleischle, who for the last 4 years has been the Santa Monica Baykeeper. Steve is an attorney. He's a graduate of the UCLA School of Law, and he has worked tirelessly for many years, even before he was the Baykeeper, to clean up Santa Monica Bay. He's worked on water quality issues and environmental issues. But LA's loss is truly the nation's and the world's gain, because I guess at the end of this month, Steve, you're leaving the Santa Monica Baykeeper, but wait until you hear what Steve's new job is. He's going to be the executive director of the International Waterkeeper Alliance, which is an organization founded and run by Bobby Kennedy Jr. Out of New York. Steve will serve as the executive director of this body, which means that he will be involved in the actions of the more than 100 waterkeepers, riverkeepers, baykeepers throughout the country, throughout the world. So he's going to take his expertise, his knowledge, his legal background, his experiences here in Los Angeles, and take it to the world and continue his extraordinary advocacy on behalf of the environment and help energize other keeper organizations throughout the nation and throughout the world to do a better job, a more aggressive job of protecting our oceans, protecting our bays, protecting our waterways. It has been an extraordinary privilege for me to work with Steve and the other members of the environmental community during the 2 years I've been here. For the new members, I say I'm sorry that you're not going to have the chance to work with Steve directly, but hopefully indirectly, and hopefully in your new assignment, you will get the chance to come back to LA and help educate us in LA about innovations in the area of clean water that you're observing worldwide and nationwide. So, folks, I'd like to ask you to join me in congratulating Steve Fleischle on this extraordinary achievement, being named Executive Director of the International Waterkeeper Alliance. Congratulations, Steve.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Weiss, for not only being a great waterkeeper yourself and a guardian of the water, but for making this presentation. And we are really going to miss you, Steve. New York and this country's gain is a little bit of our loss, but since you will be helping oversee things nationally and continuing to be a voice, we would not expect your voice to be lost here in Los Angeles. But I want to thank you personally for helping me to learn about a lot of the clean water issues here in Los Angeles. I think you've been part of a movement that has really changed people's thinking. The public service announcements that have been blanketing us the last week have just been incredible, and I think they're from individuals like you, and you've been really at the forefront of that movement, getting people to think not only about legislative and legal remedies, but also how their personal action, how when we don't clean up after our dogs, or if we let trash go into the street, how that's going to wind up in the same beaches and bays that we spend time in, our rivers and our lakes. But really, you've been unyielding, and that is such an important voice. I'm sure the city attorney's office is crying a little tear right now that you're leaving LA. And although I think they also respect quite a great deal such a strong advocate they've had on the other side of the table. And in any movement, to be able to have a voice that does not yield, that pushes people to do the maximum they can, to be the best that they can. LA has always deserved no less, and you've been the voice that's allowed that to happen. So thank you on a personal basis for helping me and being an important part of my education on this. But secondly, thank you for all the residents of Los Angeles for making this a cleaner place to live in. And good luck.
Ms. Perry.
Steve, I also wanted to rise to say thank you. Thank you for being such a great advocate and taking us to task as well. And I just want to highlight the fact that, yes, you're going back east, but they're going to benefit from the extraordinary advocacy that you've displayed here in California, and I think that you will continue to lead the way for the entire country, and I wish you well, and I look forward to continuing to work with you on these countrywide issues. So congratulations.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you, Mr. President. Steve, good morning to you, and congratulations on what a great promotion, because it's interesting when we look at and read the various journals about the environment. They talk about river movements throughout the world and the rebirth of rivers. And just this week, in the Los Angeles Times, there was a wonderful story about the Seine and what the mayor of Paris did to bring the beach to the people on there. One day we hope to do that. Mr. Reyes and his efforts that others and I share on the ad hoc committee of the Los Angeles River. All water is recycled, as we know, from millions and millions of years of time here, but to keep that water clean, to keep it a part of the environment is what we strive for. When I was in New York recently, I had a wonderful tour around on the one-hour boat tour through the Hudson, through the Bronx River, through the Harlem River, and it was amazing to see what they did to revive their areas, which is being duplicated throughout the country. Every city has a story about a river in this country now, and we have a story about ours in the Los Angeles River. I want to thank you for your effort. It all starts in the street. If we keep our streets clean, trash doesn't go down the drain. If it doesn't go down the drain, it doesn't get in the river. It doesn't get in the river. It doesn't get in the ocean. It doesn't get in the ocean. It doesn't get in the fish. It doesn't get in the fish. It doesn't get in our stomachs. So we try to keep ourselves healthy and clean. For those of us who eat fish, thank you, Steve.
Mr. Reyes.
You're coming from the neighborhoods who don't really get to see the beach and don't frequently have an opportunity to understand what it means, because we're just not there. And those of us who can afford it can get there and understand what a beautiful asset that is, ecologically and in every other which way. And I would hope that in your future endeavors, first I want to thank you for your past endeavors, but in your future endeavors that we can continue understanding that as a region, as cities continue to evolve, as densities increase, that we keep that in front of us, what's happening to people, in as much as what's happening to nature, and in that very delicate balance. And I want to thank you for working with us. I would only hope that you would understand that the positions we take is one in which we also thinking of the people, and as much as we think about nature, and it's so intertwined. With priorities the way they are, it's sometimes very hard to understand the impact of one over the other. But I think at the end of the process, we're trying to reach the same objective. And the needs of those who are not in a position to have the luxury to enjoy these great amenities, if we eventually get to a point where the amenities can be near them, like places along the river. So for that, I thank you, because I know it's all interconnected, and I appreciate your help.
Mr. Zani.
Thank you. I join my colleagues in acknowledging you, and I know that my visits to Santa Monica are a lot better than they used to be. And I know that the storm drains and the issues and the pollution that has taken place over the many, many years has improved because of your efforts and what you've done. I've been to some of the events that they've had at Santa Monica, Gila Bay, and your work has been tremendous. I hope it continues in this region, and now moving on to a higher level. Hopefully what you've generated here can generate across the country, because years ago people would dump their oil into the storm drains. They throw their trash in the storm drains, and the public awareness of what happens in the Santa Monica Bay, what's happening with the pollution, what's happening with the society that uses that for pleasure, and it's because of your strong efforts. And I acknowledge, along with my colleagues, and congratulate you and wish you well in your new endeavors for maintaining an environment that we can be proud of and we can enjoy for not only our generation, but generations to come. Congratulations to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, members of the council. I know Wednesdays are busy days for you all, so I'll try to keep it brief. I want to thank you very much for allowing me to be here, and I want to thank Councilmember Weiss for taking the time and the effort to recognize me today, and all of you for your kind statements. I have been the Baykeeper for about 4 years. I've been living in Los Angeles for about 12 years. Before the Baykeeper, I was a legal analyst with Heal the Bay, so I've been working on these issues for quite some time. It's hard to leave right now because there are so many things where we are so close. I think we have 4 or 5 lawsuits that we're engaged in with the city of Los Angeles. But we're very, very close to solving these issues, and I think it's in large part because of some of the leaders that have spoken today on these issues. And I think with the new council, it's very exciting to see some good and strong environmental backgrounds coming on board. And so I am confident we are going to resolve these issues very soon. I was in Toronto with Bobby Kennedy recently, and it was very hard when he said, "Steve, let's take a walk in the woods and talk to me about this job." It's almost impossible to turn him down when we're talking about working directly with him every single day on national and international issues related to water quality. So I'm very excited about that. As Councilmember Labange mentioned, the Riverkeeper movement really started along the Hudson, and now there are 114 river, bay, and sound keepers around the world. And they're all based on community action. They're all based at the grassroots level, and they're all based on the idea that each one of us has responsibility for maintaining water quality in our communities, and that each of us has the power to do something about it, and that it's both environmentally important to do these sorts of things, but it's also economically important. And it's important to the vitality of our communities to make sure that we have clean water. And I'm glad that many on this council recognize this. We certainly, when the Baykeeper moves forward without me, they will certainly recognize those issues, and they will work very hard to clean up the LA River, Ballona Creek, and our inland waterways as well, because it's all about communities and the communities that can use and enjoy these waterways. I did want to thank some folks that are here today. I want to thank very much my girlfriend, the wonderful Kalani Samuels, and her son Pete, who are here. They're very shy, but they're in the back. And stand up, guys, for supporting me and putting up with me when I am so passionate about my beliefs. And my staff member, Tom Ford, is here. He's a marine biologist that works on planting kelp in the ocean. And Leslie Mentz from Gilda Bay is here today. And I really just want to thank everybody who works very, very hard on these issues every single day. And I know there's a lot of young people in the audience today, and I just want to remind them that we can really do anything we put our minds to. And 15, 20 years ago, Santa Monica Bay was an absolute dump. It was a pit, and we've made a lot of progress, in part because of the environmental community, but also in part because of the efforts of the city of Los Angeles. And I want them to take home the message that they can do it too, and if we all work hard on these issues, we can make the world anything that we can imagine it to be. So with that, thank you very much. Thank you again, Councilmember Weiss, and God bless all of you.
Thank you very much. And congratulations, Steve. This is our presentation for today. Before returning to the items on the agenda, let me acknowledge a group from the Junior Statesman Foundation. We have, I believe it's about 80 students observing us today. If I can ask you all to please stand up. And so, thank you all for being here today. Welcome to City Hall. We know you're going to be here most of the day, and several of the members of the council will get an opportunity to meet with you and speak with you later on today. We also have a special guest in Chambers, someone who was a colleague recently and is now a member of our state legislature, Assemblywoman Jackie Goldberg. Jackie, welcome back to council. You know you're always welcome here. Mr. Clerk, next item, please.
Item 1 is an item notice for public hearing. This is relative to the establishment of the Helms Venice Boulevard Property and Business Improvement District.
And we do have cards in item number 1. Let's call that special.
Item 2 is also an item notice for public hearing, and this is relative to the Hollywood Entertainment District Property and Business Improvement District.
We also have cards in item number 2. We'll call that special.
Items 5 through 15 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Colleagues, items 5 through 15 are before us. Public hearings have been held in committee. A motion from the floor would be required to reopen the public hearings. Seeing no such motions, we have any requests for specials, items 5 through 15. Ms. Perry?
14, please.
14, call special by Ms. Perry. Any other specials? Seeing none, on the balance of the items. Mr. Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Those are approved. Next item, please.
Items 16 through 35 are items for which public hearings have not been held.
Colleagues, 16
Colega
through
16 a
35 are before us, and I do
35
not have
nosotros no
requests from
tenemos
members of the public to address the
peticiones
council
del público para
on these
hablar del pueblo en
items.
estos
Shall
asuntos.
therefore deem the
Por
public
eso, entonces, con
hearings
la audiencia
open
pública
and
abiertas y
closed.
cerradas.
Do we have any
¿Tenemos
requests for
alguna
specials
petición para
today?
un especial hoy?
Items 16
Del
through
16 al
35.
35.
Seeing none,
Dígase
Mr.
ninguna.
Clerk,
Se
please
va a
open the
ofrecer la
roll.
lista.
Please close the
Cierre
roll
la
and
lista.
tabulate
Establece
the
el
vote.
voto.
39.
13 sí.
Those are approved.
Están aprobados.
Next item, please.
Próximo asunto, por
Items
favor.
36
Asuntos
through 42
36
are
al
the closed
42
session
son
items. Do you wish to hold those on
sesiones
the
de
desk?
cero que
Let's hold
detenerse
all
los
closed
que
session items on the
vamos a
desk.
detener todas las sesiones
Item
cerradas.
37,
Asunto
specifically, I
36,
understand
presidente, ellos siendo
there's a request to continue
para
this matter.
continuar este asunto.
Ms. Perry,
Señora Pérez,
am I correct? I
¿estoy
understood there was
correcto?
a
Entendí que
request for
la petición
continuance
para
on item
continuar
37.
el 37. No.
Okay,
Let's
we'll
do
keep it on the
37 today.
agenda. Keep it on the desk. All closed session items are held on the desk.
Están en el
Mr.
escritorio.
Reyes?
Señor Reyes.
Yes, Council President,
Señor presidente.
item number 7, if we could just reconsider
Presidente, por
to receive and
reconsiderar
file, I
para hacer el
apologize for
archivo.
that.
Escritorio.
Okay, colleagues, a motion to
Moción para
reconsider
recibir y
item number
considerar
7.
el 7.
Mr. Clerk, please open the
Ofrece
roll
la
on
lista de
reconsideration.
información.
Please close the roll
Ofrece la
and
lista.
tabulate
Establece
the
el
vote.
voto.
39.
13 sí.
Item 7 is
7
now
está
back
con
before
la
us. We have a
bastante
motion from Mr.
moción
Reyes
para el
to
señor
receive
Reyes
and
para
file this
recibir el
item. Is
archivo
there
de
any
este asunto. ¿Hay una
discussion?
discusión?
Seeing none,
Dígase ninguna.
please open the roll and
Ofrece
receive
la
and
lista y
file
recibir
item
el
number
archivo del
7.
asunto número 7.
Please close the roll and
Cierre la
tabulate
lista
the
y
vote.
establece el voto.
39.
13 sí.
Item 7 is received
7
and
se recibe
filed.
en
And
archivo
Mr. Clerk, could you
y
please
ofrece
send
la
items
lista
5, 6,
5,
and
6 y
12
12.
forthwith, please.
Para adelante, por favor.
Next item.
Próximo asunto.
Back to the items called
Revisando
special.
ya los
Item 1,
especiales,
inasmuch as there are
asuntos
cards
como
from the
hay
public.
tarjetas
Okay,
del
we do
pueblo.
have cards on
Tenemos
item number
tarjeta
1.
número 1.
The council calls
Council
forward
para adelante.
Chris Shable,
Chris Shable,
Wally Marks,
Wally Marks,
Carl
Carl
Lanston,
Lanston,
and Richard
and Richard
Weld.
Weld.
If you would all please come forward at
Vengan
this
para
time.
adelante en esta ahorita.
If you would all please come forward at
Vengan
this
para
time.
adelante.
Introduce yourself, please. and
Preséntense.
Go ahead.
Hi, good morning.
Buenos
Wally
días.
Marks,
Wally Marks,
8758 Venice
8758
Boulevard.
Venice Boulevard.
Greetings.
Buenas
As a
tardes.
proponent
Como
of the
proponente
proposed
de la
business improvement
propuesta
district along
de
Venice
Venice
Boulevard,
Boulevard.
I am now urging this body, the council, not to support the creation of this bid. It has become apparent that there is an unbalanced distribution of community support, and thus the objectives of this bid will not be achieved. As a representative of the original Homes Furniture Bid Formation Committee, we look forward to the City Council, to returning to the City Council in the coming months with a revised management plan and an amended district boundaries to better reflect the level of support and commitment from its property owners and the local businesses. Thank you very much for your time at this time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is Richard Hell. I'm a property owner at 8511 Venice Boulevard, and I support Wally Marks' comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have two other
Tengo dos
cards,
tarjetas
one
más,
from
una
Carl
de Carl
Lanston,
Lanston,
the other from Chris Shable.
de Chris Shable.
Good morning, Councilman.
Buenos días,
We just heard
como
that
acabamos de ver,
Mr. Wally Marks has
Wally Marks
voted against it, and we're
votó
pleased with
contra
that.
esta
Thank you.
Your name, sir?
¿Su nombre?
Your name?
I came to speak
Y
on the
vine a
Hollywood
hablar
bid,
en
and in the agenda it
en la
has it
agenda
as item number 1.
asunto
So I
número,
think
punto de información.
Correct your
Correcto.
card. This is
Su
number
tarjeta
2.
es su número 2.
Thank you, Ms.
I'd like to speak on number 2.
Number 2. She made an error.
Thank you very much.
Unintentional.
Thank you, Tom.
Then this will conclude
Esto va a
public
concluir el
comment on
comentario
this item.
público en este
Are
asunto.
there members wishing to be heard
Tenemos
on
que
item
hacer
number
el
1?
asunto número 1.
Mr. Ludlow.
Señor Deulado.
Thank you,
Gracias,
Mr. President.
presidente.
I wanted to
Yo
rise
quería
and not only
levantarme y no
support
solo
the
soportar
request
la
of Mr.
petición
Marks,
del
but also
señor,
to
pero
really
también
congratulate and
para
acknowledge
felicitar y
Mr. Marks.
reconocer al señor Marks.
I'm a big
Yo soy
supporter
un
of
soportador
business
del
improvement districts, and I
mejoramiento de
think
negocios en
colleagues, we've
distritos y
seen this
colegas que hemos
work in
visto
many, many
esto
parts
trabajar
of
en
the
muchas
city.
partes de la
One
ciudad.
of the foundation,
Una de las
key
fundaciones,
elements of the
los
bid
elementos
process
del
is
proceso
to
de
ensure that there
propuestas
is
pone
popular support
un
amongst
soporte
all who will
popular
be
entre
impacted
todos
by
los
the
que van
bid.
impactados por la
Mr. Marks
propuesta.
has
El
done
señor
some
Marks ha hecho
incredible things along
unas cosas
Venice
increíbles
Boulevard
en
with the
Venice
renovation of the
Boulevard
Helms
con la
Bakery
renovación, la
and just the
panadería,
adjoining properties. And it's a
Helms y
real,
las propiedades
real
de
exciting
contenedores.
thing to see what's
Es
happening there.
excelente lo que está pasando.
Unfortunately, in
Desafortunadamente,
the effort to try to
los
gain
esfuerzos de
popular
tratar de ganar
support for the bid,
para la propuesta
it fell quite short outside of his own group. And he is actually here as an
Él
original
está como
applicant
aplicante
asking
origen
you
pidiéndole
to
a
support
ustedes
him
que
and now
soporten y
withdrawing
ahora
the bid application.
la
I think
solicitud
it's
de apoyo. Yo
an
creo que
admirable
es
thing to
una
do,
cosa
something we ought
admirable,
to
es algo que
applaud.
debemos
I
aplaudir.
commend him on this,
Yo
and I
lo
support the withdrawal of this and encourage members to support no on the item.
Okay.
Okay.
Other members wishing to be
Miembros
heard?
que deseen ser oídos.
Seeing none, colleagues,
Gracias,
if I
buenos
can ask
colegas, si
everybody
puedo
for your
pedir que
attention,
tu
please.
atención, por favor.
We need members in their seats at this time.
Asientos, en nuestro asiento.
Mr. Parks,
Señor Parks,
Mr. Weiss,
señor Weiss.
To even file this item and not move forward. You don't have to vote no on it. Just receive and file the
Lo
item.
recibe en archivo.
Mr. Ludlow.
Señor Lalo.
Clerk is recommending
Está
make a motion to
recomendando esa
receive and
moción para
file.
recibir en
Okay.
archivo.
We now have a motion
Thank you,
before
Mr.
us to receive and file this item. Mr. Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
Tabúlese el voto.
13 ayes.
13 sí.
Okay, that item is
Ese
received
asunto está
and
recibido
filed.
en
That was
archivo.
item number
Y fue el
1.
asunto número 1.
Next item, please.
Próximo asunto, por favor.
Item two,
Su
called special in as much as there are
especial
calls from the public.
tarjetas del
Okay,
público.
and the council calls forward Jacqueline Shavel, Russ Joyner, Joel Fisher, and Sheila
Y Sheila
Hollenchak. And I'll call other speakers as we proceed.
oradores como
Go ahead.
procedamos.
Good morning, City
Buenos
Council.
días,
I'm
Consigliere
Jacqueline
Jacqueline
Chabal.
Chabal.
I'm speaking on the
Y
exemption
hablando
of
de la
charitable
excepción de
nonprofits from the Hollywood Entertainment
beneficios
Business Improvement
públicos
District
de-
assessments.
de mejoramientos
We
de
believe that in
Hollywood.
all
Nosotros creemos
fairness,
que en
the
toda
charitable
justicia
nonprofit organizations in
naciones
Hollywood
de-
should be exempted from the Business Improvement
deben ser
District
exentas del
assessments
distrito de
entirely,
evaluaciones
as this is
enteramente.
consistent with the
Esto
majority
es
of the
consciente la
practices
mayoría de
across
las
the United
prácticas por
States.
todos los Estados Unidos.
Approximately 90% of the bids across the
90% de las
U.S. do not
propuestas de
assess
proceso no evalúan.
nonprofits. This
Las
includes
licencias
the
por
larger
eso
cities from the
incluye
Los
las ciudades
Angeles
más grandes
downtown
de
bid
Los-
to the Times
propuestas
Square
de Los
bid in New
Ángeles,
York.
Times Square en Nueva
A
York.
sampling of the bids around the
Ejemplo de las
country was
propuestas
also
del
done in
país
Atlanta,
también se hizo
Georgia,
en Atlanta, Georgia,
Coral Gables,
Coral
Florida,
Gables,
Austin,
Florida,
Texas,
Austin,
and
Texas,
Knoxville,
y
Tennessee,
Nashville, Tennessee.
all of which
Todos
exempt
los
churches
cuales
and
que hicieron,
nonprofits. The
iglesias
state of
y
New Jersey
iglesias
has
del
54
estado de-
bids, all of which exempt
64
nonprofits.
son
The
beneficios
logic behind
públicos.
these exemptions is that
Estas
nonprofits
excepciones que
already provide
beneficios
invaluable
proveen
services to the
servicios
community
buenos para la
to improve the
comunidad para
quality of
mejorar la
life,
calidad de vida.
such as by getting
Tales
youth and
por
homeless off the
educar
streets and other programs that
gentes
contribute
fuera de las
directly
calles
to making the
contribuyen
areas
directamente para
clean
hacer
and safe.
limpias y seguras.
The nonprofits provide a service
Las
not
públicas
provided
dan
by bids,
servicios por
and this
propuestas y
this service for the entire
servicio para
community
toda la
receives no
comunidad
support from the
recibe
bid.
soporte.
Thus, bid
Por
assessments
eso,
impose an additional
evaluaciones
unnecessary
tienen
burden. The charitable nonprofits fundraise in order to carry out their programs as mandated by their missions. The people donating to them expect their contributions will go to these programs, not to excessive administration. Nonprofits that receive city funding for their programs also should be putting that funding towards their programs. Hollywood's charitable nonprofits would be here regardless of whether or not there is added security or street maintenance. Their purpose is to provide services to those in need. More tourists and improved business or property value is not their focus, helping people is. Thus, charitable nonprofits do not reap benefits of their services, the services of the bid, the way businesses do.
May I ask you to conclude, please? We have a lot of speakers waiting.
This charitable nonprofits are willing to participate in the bid in a reasonable way. However, they should not have assessments that add undue burden to them, as this is not fair given their mission. The language which resolves this situation has been adopted by many other bids around the country and should be adopted by the LA bids also. This language, which I have here, which I can submit to you, we respectfully request that the LA City Council include this language in the management district plan for the Hollywood Entertainment District bid. Also, the City Council should look at this as a larger issue and bring these practices into conformance with the bids around the United States.
Thank you very much. Russ Joyner.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Russ Joyner. I am Vice President and General Manager of the Hollywood Entertainment Complex. I've had an opportunity to work in Hollywood for the past 5 years and had the pleasure to work with both the Hollywood Entertainment District and the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce in both support roles and leadership capacities. And I'm here to speak in support of the renewal of the Hollywood Entertainment District Business Improvement District for all the obvious reasons. The mission that they've set out to achieve is something that's well underway and something that needs continuance. We, as one of the larger stakeholders in Hollywood, firmly subscribe to the efforts and the work that they're doing. At the same time, us being nonprofit, not by choice, we continue to look forward to the good work that they continue to do and ask for your support to do so.
Mr. Mr. Fisher.
Señor Fisher.
After Joel Fisher, we'll hear
Después
from
vamos a
Sheila
ir a Sheila
Holenchek,
Holenchek,
Donnell Dadigan,
Daniel
Sam
Dadigan,
Cole,
Sam
and
Cole,
John
and
Thompson.
Thompson.
Mr. President, members of the
Presidente,
Chamber,
miembros
good morning.
de la
I'm Joel
Cámara,
Fisher,
soy Joel Fisher,
Chair of the Bid Renewal and Treasurer, member
Presidente
of the
de la
Board of the
renovación de
Hollywood
la
Entertainment
Cámara
District
del
Property Owners
Distrito
Association.
Dueño de su propiedad.
This, ladies and
Estos,
gentlemen,
damas y
is the second
caballeros, es
time
la
in 3
segunda
years
vez
that
en
we
3
have been
años que
before you.
nosotros estamos ante ustedes.
We have attempted in
Hemos
the Bid Renewal
intentado
to
en
be
la renovación de
inclusive
propuestas
and
ser
innovative.
inclusivos y
We've had a
innovativos. Hemos
member of
añadido
the
un miembro
nonprofits
de la
serving in our
organización
executive
sirviendo en
committee
este
up to the
comité
very
ejecutivo
end.
hasta el final.
We have
Nosotros
met
hemos
with the City
tenido con el
Council,
Consejo de la Ciudad
representatives of, for mediation
representantes
with
para
this effort.
mediación con este
We think
esfuerzo.
that we are
Creo
within
que no estamos
the
dentro del
intent of the Management
intento del
District Plan.
manejamiento del plan.
There are different ways to
Hay
do things,
diferentes
but we
maneras para
urge
hacer
your
cosas, pero
support for
queremos su
this motion.
soporte para esta
Thank you.
moción. Gracias.
Good morning, Mr.
Buenos días,
President
señor
and
presidente,
council members.
miembros del
My
Consejo,
name is Sheila Holenchek. My name is Sheila Holenchek. Good morning, everyone.
Buenos días.
I am on the executive
Estoy en el
committee
comité
for
ejecutivo
the
para
Business Improvement
el
District as well
mejoramiento
as
del
working on the
negocio.
renewal
También
committee.
trabajando en el comité de
I
renovación.
represent a
Yo
property
represento
6253 Hollywood
67
Boulevard.
Hollywood Boulevard.
And again,
Y otra
I
vez,
echo Russ
yo
Joyner's
echo
comments. We are
comentarios de Russ.
non-profit, not by
Nosotros
choice.
no por
We all work very hard to support the bid and make sure that Hollywood's improvement continues. So I hope that you will
Espero que
be
ustedes
supportive
estén
of our
portados de
renewal.
nuestra
Thank you.
renovación. Gracias.
Good morning. My name is Donnell Dadigan. I'm the owner of the Max Factor building in Hollywood, and I'm president and founder of the Hollywood History Museum. In 1996, I came to Hollywood with the express intent of purchasing a building to house my life laundering, the Hollywood History Museum. The Hollywood History Museum is a not-for-profit California corporation, which opened several weeks ago to the public, thank goodness. But my point is that I fully support this Hollywood Entertainment District bid because what it has done is taken a derelict property such as the historic Max Factor building that was next thing to empty and ready to close whether I purchased it or not. And I have been able to resuscitate life into this and be able to speak to different economic councils and communities and be able to receive financing in a way that I would not have been able to do without this bid. The bid has allowed for the surrounding area to improve much more than I would ever be able to have that happen. And as a result, the entire area has improved. Property values have increased, and whether or not I have a nonprofit in my building or not, my building is worth much more today than it was before the business district was started. So I thank you very much for listening to me, and I do support the continuance of the Hollywood Entertainment District bid. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
We have Sam Cole waiting, along with John Tronson, and Chris Shaver.
Good morning. My name is Sam Cole, and I'm the general manager of the Roosevelt Hotel at 7000 Hollywood Boulevard. I'm also a resident of the hotel, so I'm proud to say that I actually work and live in a business improvement district. And every morning at 6:15, I leave the hotel and walk to Runyon Canyon Park with my dog, along with hotel guests, and I pass by profit and nonprofit buildings along the way. And I'm pleased to see the improvement that's taken place in the past 2 years in Hollywood. I hope that it will continue, and I appreciate your support. Because without this support, we'll be unable to continue the great work that we do in streetscape, marketing, and security to make Hollywood Boulevard and the entertainment district surrounding it one of the best areas of Los Angeles. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Good morning.
Buenos días.
My name is John Tronson. I'm with
Yo
Ramsey
estoy
Schilling
con
Commercial
Ramsey
Real Estate of
Comercio.
Hollywood.
En
I
este
own
26 de julio
a
soy
commercial
dueño
real estate
de
broker. I own 2
edificios
buildings
de
inside the
edificio
Hollywood
dentro
Entertainment
del
District.
distrito.
And I would just like
Hablando,
to point out, as the chairman of the security committee for that district, that there are many challenges that we have to face for private, nonprofit, and for-profit property owners. And the nonprofits benefit equally from the security services that are provided, and they actually provide a great assistance to help them. It's a benefits assessment district, and I do believe that they share equally in the benefits of the clean and safe community. I'd urge you to support it as it's presented. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias. Chris.
Good morning,
Buenos
City
días,
Council.
concilios de la ciudad.
I'm Chris Shaybal.
Yo soy Chris Sheva.
I am, as Tom
Yo soy como
LaBonge
Tom
and Eric
LaBonge y
Garcetti
Eric
knows,
Garcetti saben,
against the unequal
contra de
assessment
la
of the Hollywood
evaluación
Entertainment Business Improvement District. 1 year ago, I
Hace un año
protested
yo
at the bid
protesté
board
en la Cámara
to
en la
not
propuesta
improve
que
the
no
bid
pusieran
assessments
la
on the
evaluación de
nonprofits.
propuestas. En la
There were only
beneficencia
four
solo había 4
at that time.
en aquel
I
tiempo,
believe there's
pero
only
que
3
ahora
now.
más hay 3 ahora.
And they have their own guards, their
Sus
own
propias
cleaning,
guardias, sus propia
and they
limpieza,
keep a
y
wonderful
mantienen
presence on the boulevard
presente en
with
el
most
boulevard
updated buildings.
con edificios.
I have numerous
Yo tengo
complaints
quejas
about the
numerosas
Hollywood Entertainment
del
District,
del distrito de la
and
farándula.
I think
Y yo
I
creo,
took those
tomé
complaints
esas
to
quejas
Eric,
a Eric
and I took with him,
tomé con él
with me, some
conmigo
rules that should
algunas
be
reglas
made
que deben de
to
hacerse
all
para
BIDs throughout the
todos
LA
los
County,
condados de Los
LA
Ángeles,
City.
la ciudad de Los
I have
Ángeles.
given
Yo le he
a
dado
list to Eric
una lista a
Garcetti,
Eric
which would
Garcetti
make
que
the bids more
haría las
democratic,
propuestas más democráticas.
and would be pleased
Yo
to
estaría
pass
gusto en
on
pasar
those complaints, those lists,
esas listas,
how to make the bids
cómo
more
hacer las
equitable.
propuestas más
This should be
iguales.
tabled
Debe de haber
until
mesa
more
hasta
facts
que
to
más
all the
hechos
people
para toda la
and
gente,
tenants and
inquilinos
nonprofits were
y
made.
beneficiarios
Thank you.
públicos se hayan hecho. Gracias.
Thank you very much. This
Gracias.
concludes
Esto
public
concluye el
comment for
comentario
item number
público para
2.
asunto número 2.
Members wishing to be
Miembros
heard
que
on item
deseen
number
ser
2.
asunto número 2.
Mr. Garcetti.
Señor Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Muchas gracias,
President, and thank you to all the members of the Hollywood community that have come down here today to City Hall. Let me just follow up from our last speaker, from my friend Chris Chabelle. I think that a lot of us have talked here about how we can, and we've had some of these conversations with the city clerk, and I know the city clerk has thought about this recently, how we can improve the bid process. Bids are frustratingly democratic and sometimes frustratingly quasi-democratic. They are exercises in some of the same problems we have with things like referendums in this state and other kind of direct democracy. And as the administrative agent, the city really is in a place, at least my philosophy is, where we should not be interfering with the process that happens on the ground. The same way that neighborhood councils need to build themselves up and either live by their strengths or die by their weaknesses. And whether it's the Hollywood Entertainment bid, whether it is bid downtown or bid out in the valley, I think they will always be judged on that record by those who have the vote to judge them. And that is an important check on the democratic process. Nevertheless, some of the things that Chris and others have brought up before about whether or not tenants can get the notices as well as owners, some of those problems we've seen in some of the growing pains throughout the city of bids are important reforms. And we have had that with formerly the Economic Development and Employment Committee to look at those broader issues. Specifically in Hollywood, as I've shared with many members of the Alliance, really I think it's the best thing to work in the democratic process that is the bid itself, to let people know, and we're happy to facilitate some negotiations that happen, and we had testimony in committee from folks that were from California Youth Theater, from Nosotros Foundations, and others who came by, and we were able to help them negotiate a $25,000 reduction in the bid assessment. That's a good place for us to be. It's a good outcome that I think recognizes the impact and the positive contributions that nonprofits make. At the same time, year to year, that assessment, and year to year, the judging of whether or not a bid should continue really will again rise on the merits of how people feel, whether the streets are cleaner, whether they feel like the security is an added bonus, and then they can exercise their rights through the ballot box. The more land that they own, obviously, the larger vote they get. But I think those reforms are important ones. We need to look at that systematically throughout the city. But in the meantime, this seems like a good solution and should go forward today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Mr. LaBonge.
Mr. Garcetti, can I ask you a question? Just on this? In working with this issue, you have been establishing a rate that is for nonprofits that's lower than that. Can I ask the clerk to explain that?
Let me back up for a minute here, because we're in a litigation now on Sunset and Vine relative to what this business improvement district assessment is. This is a special benefit assessment. not a tax.
No es un impuesto.
It's applied equally to all the owners of property. The benefits, the special benefits, have to be distinguished from the general benefits of that area. So the 1994 property owner bid law provided that you could exclude nonprofits and people who were exempt from taxation from the bid. You may do that if you did it in the management district plan. Article 13 of the state constitution and Proposition 218 remove that ability to do that. Those are higher statutes, higher laws. Therefore, we really have to look at the benefits being received. In this particular case, the Hollywood Entertainment District, like other business improvement districts, is attempting to recognize that nonprofits in that district do contribute some special benefits to the owners of property within that, so they have provided a way to reduce your assessment down. As I told Mr. Garcetti's staff and the people we met with, there is another way to do this. If you can craft a management district plan that takes nonprofit services as a special benefit to the property owners in that business improvement district, you could probably offset your assessment. I think they had some discussions. Those discussions may be ongoing in terms of providing special events, but in this case, I think they've gone about as far as they can go legally, Mr. Labange, in crafting an exemption. But I want to make clear, under the Constitution, special benefit does not mean general enhancement of property value. So that's not what we're looking at when we create one of these. So a lot of the nonprofits come in and say, you know, my property isn't going to be benefited in terms of increased value. That has nothing to do with this.
Kerry, thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Thank you and your staff for trying to do this. Some of you don't like the concept of this. And Chris, I've worked with you for years, and Janet, I've known you for years on this issue here. I truly believe if a community is going to stand up like Mr. Garcetti and I want our communities to stand up, we all got to try to help out and being able to craft something that lightens the load, Eric, which is within the legal limits of what our fine city clerk has created, is something that is important to me. I remember walking down, remember the energy crisis in the mid-70s? They turned off all the lights on Wilshire Boulevard, and then they well, there used to be two lights. Remember walking down and I saw the head of the Catholic Church, finance, Monsignor Hawks, the late Monsignor Hawks. And I told that Monsignor, I said, Monsignor, I want to turn the lights back on Wilshire Boulevard. But we're going to have to charge you because they have a big church down there on Wilshire because it's a benefit. The lights, they don't pay property tax, right, Michael?
I don't believe so.
But they pay for the lighting. And that Monsignor who ran all those finances for the good church, of which I happen to be a member, but anyway, he ran it on a 3x5 car. He said, Tom, that's going to cost us money. And I said, Monsignor is going to put light on the street to make it safer for you to others to walk. And he used to walk from St. Basil's there on Kenmore all the way down to Crenshaw, down Crenshaw to Olympic. Was a great walk. Everybody should walk their neighborhood and enjoy it. But you'll walk your neighborhood and enjoy it when it's clear. You'll walk it and enjoy it when it's lit. You'll walk it and enjoy it when people are organized to fight. What is a constant battle we have anywhere in making our neighborhoods better. I believe, and I want to thank Mr. Reyes, who I just saw run around. The concept of benefit for neighborhood improvement, you're looking at this as it deals with the neighborhood improvement, which is so important. Because these extra ways we're able to help more people and do a brighter thing. I would want to say, though, Mr. Garcetti, because in certain areas such as in Miss Perry's area and other areas where there's heavily impacted nonprofits of looking for ways to help them. But if we all join hands and do our part, and we all collect a little bit more, we can make the neighborhood better. I know I'm not making anything happy with the bright green tag on, but I know we're going to make you happy when you see the improvement to your neighborhood. Thank you very much, Mr. Garcetti, for your leadership and your staff, and Mr. Carey also. Thank you.
And this will be back before the council on Friday for the vote tally.
Thank you, Mr. Labange.
Gracias, Levanch.
Members wishing to be
Otros
heard on
miembros
this
que
item?
deseen ser oídos en este
Seeing
asunto.
none,
Gracias,
let's open the roll.
Cierre la lista.
Close the
Cierre la
roll.
lista.
Tabulate the
Establece el
vote.
voto.
15 ayes.
15 sí.
Approved.
Está
Receive,
aprobado.
file, is
Vamos a ver
carried.
el señor.
Before proceeding to the
Ya
next
por esa
item called
proposición
special,
llamamos
colleagues, we
especial,
do
colegas,
have an
tenemos
additional
una
presentation, an item
presentación
which
en el
was
asunto
intended
que
to
fue
be scheduled
intentada para
today,
ser puesta
but
hoy,
was not
pero no,
properly
probablemente se
agendized.
agendizó.
Let me recognize
Déjame recordar al
Councilmember
concejal
Garcetti.
Garcete.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for this presentation. I forgot to also welcome the folks that are here from Junior Statesman as well. I used to do Junior Statesman. It's great to have you all here today in Chambers. Colleagues, if you'll remember, we did a presentation on a report from Children, Youth, and Families that looked at the state of children in Los Angeles. It was a very useful time to hear that information here in Council, and it launched a debate on where we should go forward. And similar to that, we had in the EDE committee a presentation, and we had a press conference this morning where Ms. Perry and Ms. Hahn joined the mayor, myself, Jose Huizar, president of the school board, some business leaders, community college district, to look at a new initiative that we are starting here from the city of Los Angeles around literacy. And this literacy project, originally envisioned by Mayor Han's staff, Deputy Mayor Joy Chen is here today, is looking at building on the strengths of other programs, entitlements that are out there right now. We have millions and millions of dollars of literacy money that comes into the city of Los Angeles. Oftentimes it's not going to the right people. Oftentimes people are entering these classes and dropping out of them. And we know that literacy means a workforce that is better trained, that earns more money, stronger families, stronger communities. So with that as introduction, I'm going to hand it over to Joy Chen. We're also joined by Rusty Hammer from the Chamber of Commerce and Alan Arkatov, the president of the Commission on Children, Youth, and Families, to give us an overview of this initiative. But I do ask my colleagues to listen to this, to hear what this is, how we can be partners alongside with it, and to debate against some of the issues that this brings up in looking at making sure that all of our communities have the opportunities that they need. So with that, I'll hand it over to Joy Chen.
Morning, Council, Mr. President, Council members. First, I want to thank all the Council members for approving a substantial portion of the funding required for this project with the most recent round of the UDAC grant. Thank you for putting your mouths where the money is. My name is Alan Arkatov, and I serve as President of the Commission on Children, Youth, and Their Families. And as Councilman Garcetti mentioned, next to me is Joy Chen, Deputy Mayor for Workforce Development. And to her right is Rusty Hammer, the President and CEO of the reinvigorated LA Area Chamber of Commerce. As many of you know, Tyrone Freeman, General Manager of SEIU 434B, also testified in support of this project at the Council Committee. He was to be here today, but was urgently called out of town on business and sends his regrets. I'd also like to acknowledge Julie Bronstein of Verizon, which is the first major corporate contributor to this important endeavor. With the City of LA launching today the Workforce Literacy Project, I'm reminded that projects don't implement themselves. People do. Or should I say, people who read do. In a city where 60% of our children live in households where a family of four is earning less than $34,000 a year, the fact is that the health and education of our children is directly tied to their parents' educational status. For LA to meet its destiny as the world-class city of the 21st century, it should not and cannot remain the poverty and undereducated capital of the United States. It takes a lot of hard work, and in a city the size and as complex as LA, that's not easy. Councilman LaBonge often talks about connecting the dots. Well, it's a lot of dots. Well, today, we're here to connect more than just the dots. We're here to connect words. The words of a sentence, the words of individuals, the words of a workforce, the words of a city. When the mayor and this council and the chamber took the lead on the Cash for College program earlier this year, it certainly wasn't part of what anyone would say was their normal city issues. But it was done because they knew that by the power and the leadership of your offices by this city hall, that you could open the door and improve the lives of thousands of Angelinos. Today, once again, Mayor Hahn and this council is laying down the gauntlet with leadership. Driven by the forces of globalization and technology change, the value of education continues to increase. Listen to these facts. I think you'll find them interesting. The most reliable predictor of a person's income is his or her education rate. And the most reliable predictor of a person's education rate is the education rate of his or her mother. As I turn this presentation over to Rusty, I just want to point out that this council has often talked about joint use. And no one is doing more to demonstrate that joint use is not just about facilities than what Rusty Hammer and the Chamber is doing on projects like this. Rusty.
Thank you. I just want to pick up on something that Alan said, where he mentioned that one of the most reliable predictors of a person's future is their education rate. And when we were working on the Free Cash for College program last year, one of the things that we sold to young people in Los Angeles is that the difference, the lifetime difference in earnings between someone who has a college education and someone who does not is over $1 million. And so the ability of the city of Los Angeles and our ability as a community to improve the education rates, the literacy of all the residents of this community will make a huge difference in their ability to realize their fullest potentials. You have on your screens various slides, and Alan has walked through a few of them. We're now at slide 4. And what I would open with is to remind you that today probably there is no greater link between education and economic expansion. Driven by globalization and the changes in technology, the economy continues to more and more greatly value workers who have the skills, the flexibility, and the creativity to be leaders in their businesses and leaders in their communities. Today, if you ask most business leaders what motivates them and what attracts them to a community, it's not tax incentives, it's not zoning, it's not those kinds of things. Carly Fiorina, the CEO of Hewlett-Packard, said recently to the National Governors Conference, she said, keep your tax incentives and highway interchanges, we'll go where the highly skilled people are. And that's really what it's all about. Business wants to go, business wants to stay in communities, and business wants to locate in communities where they know that they will have a stable and quality and qualified growing workforce. So the question for us, the question for you as leaders of the community, the question for us as the business community, the question for all of us in Los Angeles is how do we stack up against other cities? How competitive are we in offering the skilled workforce that 21st century companies are going to desperately need? And the next slide will show you that. And many of you may have read recently in the LA Times that Los Angeles now has the highest proportion of undereducated adults of any metropolitan area in the United States. 1 in 10 adults in Los Angeles lacks a 6th grade education. 1 in 4 lacks a high school diploma. And looking at this chart that's on your screens now, you will see in comparing Los Angeles to places like New York, Chicago, San Diego, or Mobile, Alabama, or other major gateway immigrant cities in America, not only do we rank below them, but we rank below the total U.S. average in terms of educational attainment for adults. And that is something we need to turn around as a community. Now, Joy?
If you turn to slide 6 in your packets and look on your screens, the first thing we started to do in thinking about how to grapple with these trends is to gain an understanding of where the education needs are in our community. First thing we did is break down by race, because that's where the data is available. And what we see is that there are huge educational disparities in Los Angeles. If you look along the far left side of your screens, or on slide 6, people who have a 6th grade education or less as adults in Los Angeles. One thing that jumps out at you is that 1 in 4 Latinos in LA now lacks a 6th grade education. That's pretty unusual in entire demographic groups across the country for adults who have less than 6 years of formal education in any country. If you look at the far right side of this chart, of people who have a BA degree or higher, only 6% of Latinos have a BA or higher, 1 in 5 African Americans, and about half of white whites and Asians. Now, of course, whenever we look at data, we have to remember that these are all averages, and there are pockets of very highly educated Latinos and African Americans in LA, as well as significant pockets of very low-educated whites and Asians. However, on the whole, there are very strong racial disparities in our education rates. If you turn to the next slide in your packets, slide 7, what this does is just try to drill down a little bit and look at Latinos of workforce age and try to gain a better understanding of the impact of immigration on these trends. And what we see is that 1 in 3 foreign-born Latinos comes to this country with less than 6 years of formal education. If you drop down to the third generation statistics, you'll see that we're doing a pretty good job of getting people past 6th grade. And yet, if you add up 1% and 19%, you'll see that a full 20% of Latinos of the third generation are not graduating high school in LA. And at the high end, only 13% of third-generation Latinos are getting a BA or higher. That means that 87% are not. This is not an issue that just impacts any one demographic group in Los Angeles. We know that 72% of children at LAUSD are now Latino. So the issue of low education rates is something that impacts all of us in Los Angeles.
Thank you. The facts and numbers speak for themselves. It's time for the facts and numbers to read for themselves. I encourage this council to think bold. When you look at some of these numbers, when you realize that 70% of adult inmates have limited literacy skills, where do we really think, and what do we think they're going to do when they get out of jail? So let's think about innovative solutions. I would ask that this council think about working with the city attorney, the DA, the legislature, to think about changing sentencing laws. What would happen if everybody who was going to get out of jail on parole had been required to show fundamental literacy levels? Think about it. Can they fill out the job application when they get out of there? I don't think so. So let's give them the tools to help themselves. Think about the 10% of adults with literacy needs that are served. 10%, 1 out of every 10 is being served. This city, by starting this task force now, can put itself on the way to making a tangible difference.
So today we'd like to just give you, the next slide is just a quick overview of the Workforce Literacy Project. It's composed of 3 parts. The first is a first annual report on the state of adult literacy in Los Angeles. One of the things that's constrained us, as Alan said, we have so many literacy organizations doing great work in Los Angeles. We have LAUSD Adult Education, we have the Community Colleges District, we've got the Jewish Federation, Catholic Charities, other nonprofits, the entire public library system. And yet together, they're serving only 10% of the population who needs the help. Of that 10%, 50% are dropping out within 3 weeks. One of the things that's really holding us back is that we know that perhaps half of adults in Los Angeles need help in literacy and English language learning. And yet we have no idea where those people are by neighborhood, where our needs are, by neighborhood, by age, by gender, etc. And so the first component of this project is to develop that baseline understanding of what our needs are so that we can work collectively to solve them. The United Way will be publishing this report. United Way, Marge Nichols, who's our research director, is here today with us. Marge published the Tale of Two Cities report on poverty in Los Angeles, which I know many of you have seen, that is included in your packets today. Marge and the United Way will be leading that, and we look forward to publishing that report in a public launch next spring. The second component of this project is a regional action plan to combat these trends and to bring together all of the literacy providers that I named earlier, the workforce providers, the business community, and organized labor to develop a strategic plan and an action plan with measurable goals to combat these issues. Together with this, we'll be doing a federal, state, and private funding stream analysis. It turns out there's hundreds of millions of dollars coming to Los Angeles right now, but there's no clear understanding of where those where those funds are going, and how we can allocate them to the best performing programs. We look forward to leveraging those funds. Finally, a marketing and outreach campaign for low literacy populations, featuring personal success stories to try to combat the social stigma that some people associate with their low literacy, help them get out and show them where they can get the help. Finally, of course, most importantly, implementation of this action plan. We look forward to measuring increased wages and productivity every year. We look forward to publishing our adult literacy report as an annual report and showing measurable increases. The USC School of Education will be leading a rigorous program evaluation of the implementation of this project.
As you'll see on slide 10, this project is being led by a partnership from throughout Los Angeles community, from government to the literacy community to nonprofit communities such as the United Way, to organized labor, to K-12, higher education, the Workforce Investment Board. The business community is pleased to be a part of this effort because we know that education is a real key to economic success. As you'll recall, as I said earlier, in the Free Cash for College program, we focus on opening up opportunities to young people to obtain financial aid so they can attend college. This initiative will focus on increasing the skills of their parents and their families, because as we said earlier, one of the key predictors of success of young people is the success of their parents. That is why this project is so important today. The gaps facing Los Angeles are a huge challenge. We have to take Los Angeles from one of the lowest educated cities in America to one of the highest. And in dealing with those challenges, we have a lot of assets. We're the entrepreneurial capital of the country. We're the creative capital of the country. We've got a strong community that we can rely on. We need your help. We know that there is passion in the mayor's office. I saw the passion this morning with Councilman Garcetti and with Councilmembers Perry and Councilmember Hahn this morning at our kickoff press conference where we announced this project. We need all of you to join with us in signing up to help make Los Angeles, help make this project successful, and help us take Los Angeles forward so that we are not the capital of illiteracy, but the capital of literacy in the United States. We're here to answer any questions. We thank you for your support.
Thank you for the presentation. Colleagues, I do have on the queue several speakers, several of you wishing to be heard. Let me just, for the record, remind us that this has just been a presentation today. It is not an item of hearing on today's agenda. We are not seeking to take an action today. We are not being asked to take any action today, but a brief conversation is certainly appropriate. And we recognize Councilmember Villaraigosa, followed by Mr. Garcetti, Mr. Reyes, and Mr. Cárdenas.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, members, for that admonition. I dare say if there are reasons for us to engage in debate and discussion on the floor of this chamber, this is one of them. Think about it for a moment. We're not only the capital of illiteracy in America, we're the capital of poverty, we're the second highest tuberculosis rate, we have more children in Los Angeles without health care than any big city in the nation. We are in a crisis, make no mistake about it. I think today's presentation is one of the most important I've been able to see in the month that I've been here on the chamber. It's one that gets my passion to see the coordinated effort, the participation on behalf of the business community. And I just want to say, members, if you don't already know, Rusty Hammers provided leadership at the chamber that we haven't seen in a very, very long time. The idea that the chamber would be working with the AFL-CIO, with the mayor's office, with the council, in a coordinated effort with the United Way, in a coordinated effort to direct our resources and our assets to attempting to address the situation, I think is very important. The idea that you see this as part of the engine, if you will, for economic development is the key here. Because make no mistake about it, we can say all we want, we can pass all the tax incentives, do everything we can to make a great business environment, The high-tech community, the biomed community, the good wage jobs will not come to Los Angeles if there aren't the skill set that we need to attract those companies. And I can tell you that this effort is essential, it's critical. We need to zero in on providing, if you will, the study in a way that we can come up with some solutions that we're then going to have to bite the bullet and fund. Because it's going to take the city, the county, the school district, the community college district, all of us, the chamber, the philanthropic community, all of us focused on addressing this issue. So I want to thank you for this presentation. I think it is one of the most important. I actually believe that it's one that should generate some discussion on this council, because it's where we have to go if we're going to be the great shining city on a hill, a city where we have great neighborhoods, not just in part of the city, but in every part of the city, and it starts with education and literacy, and I commend you for this very, very important effort.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. Each one of us in each one of our districts has an opportunity to create a place for learning. We can't create that place for learning if we don't provide the kind of leadership where you challenge again. And we keep saying this, I'll be a broken record on this issue, but I need for us to understand that you have the residential accessory services zone, RAS 3 and 4 zone, that you could put into your district that can create the space for these schools. You have that opportunity. So we can go and build from this great work, this great body of information, and take it to our stakeholders. Challenge our homeowner associations, challenge our neighborhood councils, have them meet with you, and tell them we need schools. We need a stronger workforce that is educated. Let's take that on. I've already asked you. Let's take Plum to your district. Let's look at those boulevards, those streets, those pockets that need to be transformed where you could have a learning facility. Councilor Labange accepted. I'm waiting for the day we take Plum to your district, Councilor Labange. But each one of us has that opportunity. An RES zone should not take more than a year. If we can get the planning department to be proactive and tell us where we can place these facilities and take on the discussion of traffic, how it influences residential zones, perhaps we have a place in which these kinds of facilities can be built. The issue here is capacity. We also have another element to our RES zone. We have provided the ability to combine clusters where we can have schools with residencies with each other. We've got two examples already in place, one that's actually in design with the school district, so that ability is with us. The question in my mind is, when am I going to see us working together, the Plum Committee and your district, taking on these issues and forcing that debate for those who would tell you, we don't need that in our backyard, we don't need that kind of traffic, and it's not our children, so why should we worry about it? We need to worry about it because this is one city, this is our future, and like the person that CEO in his report says, we don't care about the highway, we don't care about the rest, we care about the ability to have a labor force that's educated, that can become part of these companies.
Mr. Cardenas, followed by Mr. Labange, Mr. Redlow, and Ms. Hunt.
The presentation that we're receiving is certainly very comprehensive and something that's very important to our future as a thriving city. One thing did catch my attention, though. You were talking about literacy and inmates and releases and things like that. Do we know if literacy is a condition of release in any of the states in the union?
Councilman, I raise that just as to provoke the discussion, if you will. And with your distinguished past in the legislature, I think it is something that, when those inmates hit the streets, when they are released on parole, it would be something where the city of LA could send a message in terms of working with the legislature, with the DA, with the city attorney, and setting up certain ground rules.
I think that thought-provoking statement or idea or concept, I think, is something that maybe we should really explore, because in my involvement in the legislature when I was doing juvenile justice reform, I found out, to my surprise, I knew it was expensive for us to incarcerate people and to deal with the revolving door of the individuals, men and women, who end up being as juveniles and as adults part of that system. It drains us as taxpayers in the community, just financially, at the range of about $2.3 million per life, that we end up saying, we finally put them away forever. Well, you put them away forever, which is a sad situation in the greatest country in the world, that's our solution, but it's still costing us $2.3 million by the time that person expires, and we think we've solved some kind of problem. Well, quite frankly, we haven't. So I think this issue of literacy possibly being a condition of release might in fact prevent some of that revolving door problem. That is a drain locally, it's a drain by the state, it's a drain federally, it's a drain to our communities, to our commerce, to society. I think that's something that certainly caught my attention, and I'm going to pursue that as a possible idea. Perhaps, encouraging somebody to introduce it at the state level or whatever level we need to do that. But I think that's something that truly, these kinds of studies, these kinds of dialogues need us, in my opinion, certainly remind us of things that we already know, but more importantly, gives us an opportunity to think outside the box and say, what are the real solutions? I talked about a phrase being smart on crime. I think we're being dumb on crime by encouraging this revolving door, because unfortunately what you have in our prison systems are people who are frustrated, very intelligent people, if you had them take an IQ test, but people who might be frustrated, disenfranchised, and illiterate, coming in and out, back and forth on our streets and continuing to be part of that revolving door that we, quite frankly, might, on the cheap, be able to help them become literate and become part of the system and be involved in commerce and fill out that application and then finally settle into society where we all want to be, we all want them to be. So thank you for this thought-provoking opportunity.
Thank you very much. Just the city alerters, throw it up there again, will you? Can you do that? Are you already shut down? If you could, right there. Joy, on city alerters, I think sometimes when the city of Los Angeles, which I dearly love, when we point to that particular aspect there, I want to see it broken out. Our library department, where we have 70 libraries, I believe, is a focal point of learning. And that library department should be listed. Susan Kent and all of her staff do an excellent job. And I want to see the library department called out. And I want to see the Parks Department called out on this, because you learn on the parks in the streets. Al Whisker was an All-American in Michigan. His dad was shot dead when he was 6 years old. He was a Chicago police officer. And his mother wouldn't let him play high school football. But he learned to play on the parks of Chicago. And when he made this speech, I said, when he credited his parks, I thought that was so important. He's in his 80s now. But he learned in the parks. And how many of us got our first book? I remember mine. Mike Mulligan and his Steam Shovel, Cahuenga Branch Library, Santa Monica and Madison, and Mr. Garcetti's district now. Where my mother took me to the library. But the same thing, too, members. And I talk about my mother, I talk about I talk about parents and getting parental involvement with all of our lives, to embrace that, to find a way to connect that, to find that. If I was governor, and I'm not interested in changing jobs right now, but if I was governor, I would say that I want a Saturday where we require the parents of every child who's in public school to come to that school to learn where their children go, to be the teachers and to engage in that. That's something that you are about. That's something that you're about. And this is an absolutely wonderful display of what you've done as far as projecting the challenges. It's not all. It is absolutely perfect. There's been some perfect sunrises the last 2 days and perfect sunsets. Absolutely perfect weather in Los Angeles, I think. I mean, I think that is one thing. But as Antonio spoke eloquently, there are challenges that we have overall on other issues. I can't. The weather, this is pretty good. Honest. It was a terrible July. But anyway, back to the focus. The library department, the parks department. What is so important so that we can have them accountable? You know, you're with the children, youth, and families. You're advocating that. You're with the mayor's office, with the Chamber of Commerce, for those two big departments. So we don't just say the city of Los Angeles and we don't know where in the city. Our street pavers are the best street pavers in the world. And that's what they should be doing. That's all right. Keep paving the streets. But let's focus down to the departments that really affect that and make sure every child has a library card. Every child uses it. Anything that we promote in Los Angeles comes to that. Thank you for the libraries. Thank you for the parks. And thank you for the extra 14 seconds, Mr. Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. Mr. Ludlow.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to start, I want to echo what many of my colleagues have indicated, which is just a real heartfelt thank you for what you've done. This is just great, great work that you're doing. And I really want to also acknowledge the point that was raised about your leadership, Rusty, at the Chamber. Just a couple of questions. In the, as you begin to look at the action plan, are you envisioning an ability to perhaps get out to neighborhood councils to be able to provide this information at community-based meetings? Because often I think many of our colleagues on the weekends and days that we're in the district who are out there convening community meetings, would these be forums that you would be able to come out? Because I think to Councilman Reyes' point, one of the things we've got to do is get more people involved. We've got to get them engaged and get them the information. And I'm just going to, for the balance of the time, just go ahead and ask the second question, which is there a way to perhaps involve in the study some discussion about proximity to schools? Because I think Councilman Reyes makes a passionate point, and it's something that we're going to be running up against as a council regularly as the LAUSD is moving to meet their mandate to build schools. I'm a big believer, I could be wrong, but I'm a big believer that proximity to your school has a huge impact on a child's ability to achieve. It has a big impact on parents, especially working parents' ability to be involved in the classroom, as Tom was just mentioning. And it also has a big impact, I think, on the child's ability to build relationships with their classmates that carry over after hours and on the weekends versus the child that's being bused all the way out of their community. They don't have access, and their parents don't have the ability to be involved. So I'd be curious to know whether there's an ability to encompass that in some of the studies, which I know ultimately is going to require some funding. And I know that I'm anxious to see that motion come forward because I would be a big supporter of trying to find a way to support you in this endeavor.
Thank you, Mr. Ledlow. On the first question about the involvement of neighborhood councils and other groups, absolutely. And we are very, very interested in getting out there and talking to everyone who's interested in participating in this action plan. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to come and talk to you all today and present this project to you all, because we figured that you all would know in your districts who would be interested in being involved from the business community, from the social service provider community, parents, other people, and if you just let us know, you can just drop me an email of upcoming meetings that you think would be useful for us to attend. We'll definitely, either myself or some other member of our team will definitely be there. Sure, absolutely. On your second question about proximity to schools, yes, the needs assessment that Marge Nichols of the United Way is leading, one of the components will be a physical mapping of where the populations of low literacy are in Los Angeles, and then an overlay on that where the resources, all the educational resources are. So we can really step back and say, what pockets of Los Angeles are underserved and where do we need to be targeting for the action plan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I just wanted to rise in complete enthusiastic support of this program. We have a lot of good projects, we have a lot of good initiatives in the city, and it wasn't really until this morning when we unveiled this project, when we were standing at this industrial paint company in South Los Angeles, that the owner told the story of how there was a point where the employees were merely memorizing the ingredients, or if you will, or the mixes and matches that have to take place in creating this industrial paint. And it got to the point where their reading ability really impeded their chances of continuing on in this industry, because the components got more complicated, the formulas got more diverse, and you couldn't just memorize anymore the ingredients to create the kinds of industrial paint that was needed as we move forward in our society. So he actually thought of moving the company, shutting down. It wasn't going to work anymore, and came to believe that working through labor, through corporate to America, and certainly through the most important component was our community colleges, which decided to step up to the plate and begin educating and teaching these employees on site at the company how to read. And the story of one of the employees there today was really moving in terms of how it not only helped him be a better worker, but certainly a better parent, a better father. And I think this is what's important about this. And the fact that the city of Los Angeles no longer is shutting our eyes to our educational opportunities. It used to be the school board did their thing, the city council, we did our thing, but now we are partnering with the academic community in realizing that it is in our best interest in Los Angeles, it is in the best interest of our business community to have a well-skilled workforce where businesses can prosper. This business owner said it actually increased the profits at this company when their employees began to improve their literacy skills. There was less mistakes made, less returns, or whatever. There doesn't need to be an economic incentive to businesses to get involved in this. There doesn't need to be an economic incentive, really, to employers or employees. It speaks for itself. Everyone should learn to read, and that is fundamental. And Mr. LeBon, Councilman LeBon, you're right. The libraries play a key role in this. I also relayed a story this morning of a 38-year-old woman in Watts who could not read and felt like life was passing her by. And small things like not wanting to go to a parent-teacher conference about her daughter because she could not read, not wanting to speak up at a Bible study because she knew they were going to ask her to read out loud. I mean, it really impedes every area of your life. It wasn't until she enrolled in a reading program in the Watts Library that she began to learn how to read and felt like her dreams will finally come true. It is people's dreams that are thwarted when they cannot read and when they cannot do something about it. It is good for people. It is good for families. It is good for parents. And it is good for the business community. And certainly, ultimately, it is where Los Angeles should move, to really being partners in making sure that we finally begin to break the cycle of illiteracy and poverty in the city of Los Angeles. I look forward to working with you. I thought of a lot of ideas in my own district where this is going to be important. And, I must say, I know I'm already 1 minute over, but let me just say, I am doing a project like we went to visit in City Heights down in San Diego, where we're actually have torn down. We will be tearing down one of the Housing Authority projects in Wilmington and rebuilding a neighborhood around a school. And we will begin to create an incredible environment where it will be lifelong learning, as there is a senior component in this neighborhood that is right next door to an elementary school. And I can see the possibilities of seniors reading to the young people after school and changing their lives. So thank you. We're on the right direction here.
Thank Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, colleagues, for this great debate. Again, I think it proves that we can take some of these issues, whether it's the condition of youth, whether it's looking at literacy in Los Angeles, if we start to think more holistically and hear each other out in this setting, I think we can begin to move forward with policies that make sense for our communities. You heard where we're at, we're the least literate big city in America. Just let that settle in. Just let that be the bar where we start. These are the statistics.
You can't say and, you can't end the sentence with a preposition.
Even council members are somewhat illiterate. But we have to go from there and build up. And really, colleagues, this is part of a package. We have to look at a package for our families from cradle to workplace, where whether it's looking at making sure they have things like Cal Grants, healthy access to healthy families, that they're taking advantage, as statistics show we are not, of the earned income tax credit or literacy. If we can begin to put these things together in the way that we craft opportunity in this city, if we can make sure that at all those points of contact, like what Mr. LeBron said, whether it's at the parks or whether it's at the library or whether it's through city programs, that we can leverage, because what Mr. Villaraigosa said about making sure that we put our money where our mouth is, we can take just a little bit of money, Mr. Villaraigosa, and leverage a lot that's already out there. Hundreds of millions of dollars of literacy money, hundreds of millions of dollars of Cal Grants, hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions, in the earned income tax credit, and hundreds of billions of dollars as well in healthy families and access to health care. So this is a great start. We're not taking action today. The committee did take action, but we'll discuss that more appropriately when we finalize that. But thank you all for your abstract support against literacy. We will give you concrete ways to support that very soon in the future. And thank you again, the Mayor's Office, the Commission, also to the Chamber, and to our labor partners. I know Mr. Tyler Freeman couldn't make it today, but that's been a really important part of this and will continue to be an important part of that as well. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Thank you very much for the presentation. Let's proceed now to the next item. Ms. Perry. Ms. Perry, item 14.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. If I'm correct, there have been no speaker cards on this.
That is correct.
Okay, well, I just want to say thank you to the community. This bar has been a problem for many, many years, and last year culminated in a murder there on site. And so I want to say thank you to the community, the Coalition for Economic Survival, and the residents living near Cholinos Bar, working together to navigate this process to close this bar down. It's been more than a nuisance. It's a life-threatening place, and I'm pretty sure my colleagues will support me today in imposing these conditions so that eventually we can get this shut down, as the owner has indicated that she would voluntarily close the business. And while she didn't honor this in a timely way this past June, we're in negotiations again to get it closed, and this will go a great distance to enable me to do that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. And for the record, those speaker cards were submitted today, but a public hearing has been held prior to today in the Policy Committee. Are there other members wishing to be heard on this item? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
That is approved. Colleagues, I believe the remaining items on the desk are all closed session items. All closed session items, so let's temporarily recess the regular meeting agenda. And Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll on the special meeting?
Cardenas, Garcetti, Gruel, Hahn, Labange, Ludlow, Miscavige, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Smith, Villaraigosa, Weiss, Stein, Padilla, 15 members present, and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, we have one item special agenda. We do not have requests from members of the public to address the council on this item. Satisfying the public hearing, are there members wishing to call this item special? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith, please. And that concludes the special meeting agenda. Let us now adjourn the special meeting and return to the regular meeting.
Now would be time for public comments.
Mr. Parks?
I think I was sleeping through that. I'd like to ask the reconsideration of special one.
Okay. That's, without objection, have that reconsidered. Colleagues, This is special one, item number one from a special meeting agenda. Let's hear from you first, Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to ask the CLA and the city CAO to come up and share with you some information that they provided at the hearing budget and finance meeting yesterday to give us all a perspective of what our current financial situation is and what our future may look like as we go through this fiscal year.
Essentially, our report yesterday that as a result of the state actions that there is a one-time reduction in this year's revenue of roughly $47 million, that there is in the state budget a flip-flop of sales tax and property tax that will not go into effect until next year, that we are suggesting to the Finance Committee and hence the Council that on a monthly basis you monitor revenues and expenditures, because first off we need to adjust the city's budget for this $47 million, and then we need to look at expenditures this year and next year to ensure that we have enough revenue to support both and to take those into account as we go month by month, because as we commented in the budgetary process, the 2004-2005 budget has a potential deficit of someplace in the neighborhood of $250 million at the current rate.
We also mentioned yesterday that we'll be coming forward through your budget and finance and subsequently the full council with a recommendation of how we would address the shortfall caused by the state budget. Our target for coming forward will be shortly after you return from your August recess.
Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to make sure that as we move forward, and I understand that this contract is a little different from the EAA because it took so long for EAA to come through, but I don't believe this is an issue whether the police department deserves the pay raise. I think every time we can pay police officers more, I would support that. But I think the issue I have a concern with is the timing, that we have a situation here where we could be $300 million in the hole for next fiscal year. Within the next week or so, we will have about a $50 million budget cuts coming before us from the CAO to just cover the one-time budget deficit from the state. The potential of the state hit could rise if we end up with a situation where the Indian Gaming does not come forward with their $900 million as expected. We also know that in October we will have a significant hit of some type from the federal government. With all that in mind, again, I would think that we would want to be prudent and sit in the sense of timing, because this year's budget allocation for this contract will move correspondingly to each year in the future, and it will add to our cuts. Also, it will diminish to some degree, in my judgment, the increase that we have already proposed for garbage and for sewer tax, so that we will have to go back to the public and let them know that there's going to be less and less services. And just in this last month, this will be approximately $160 to $200 million in contracts, and we should not forget that the fire department is in the wing. And so I wanted to set the stage to say that if we're going to put all of these controls in place and move forward to make these decisions on budget, that we're going to have to be considerate of the larger picture. And I think also that when we look across this county, currently the sheriffs are being there at the table. There's currently a 0% on the table. San Francisco just settled a 3-year contract with NOCOLA. Long Beach basically has proposed NOCOLA. There's a variety of departments departments throughout the state who have accepted the responsibility to know that the state government, the city government, do not have the resources at this time to go forward on a raise. I do not want to be in a situation where I go back to my community, much of it is a poor community, and tell them that we can have less street sweeping, less tree trimming, less pavement of the streets and fixing of sidewalks, but yet we have the money to spend over close to $200 million on just 2 contracts. And so, again, want to make it clear, I think police officers from my 38 years in the department are deserving of every raise we can find. It is my judgment that the timing at this moment is not right to add this to already a potential $300 million shortfall for next year, and also to add to the CAO and the CLA's job over the next several months of how do we roll back in the current budget, because the only place we can roll back is services. And so with that, I would ask that we look at this very closely. I understand the concern about law enforcement, and we've heard for years about the morale factor and a variety of other things. But I think we have to look at the reality, not follow the course of the state government, to where even without money, they put a significant number of personnel items on the last year or 2 budget that put themselves into a $38 billion deficit. We are trying not to have the city in that same situation. So I would ask that we ask that this be moved to the Budget Committee so that we can look at this in light of all of the other expenditures that we're dealing with.
Ms. Misikowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I ask that we act on this today. There has been, as we go through serious budget crises and as we went through the negotiation here, your EERC committee, consisting of the President of the Council, the President Pro Tem, the Chair of Personnel, and the Chair of Budget and Finance, met on many occasions, more than normal on this one, to look at the beginning of the process with the meeting and conferring with the labor groups, and had a lot of options on the table, a lot of discussion. And as you might imagine, this is not just an issue about salaries. There are other issues that are out there that, when compared to some of the other law enforcement agencies in the region, we have asked, and there is agreement that our officers are making some shifts which do affect them personally, monetarily, as well as other things. We've gone through a good, hard, tough bargain. I can assure you that we at the ERC have said if there wasn't an agreement with what was put on the table, then we didn't have the capacity to go anymore. But we did agree that we had the capacity to put this on the table, and the labor group accepted it. So I think that this is good faith. This is part of what we have done. We did go through a tough budget period ourselves, and yet even doing that, we did put some money in that budget for reasonable salary negotiation issues. We've been bringing those to the council on a regular basis. This is within that framework. Granted, there's a hit that we're going to take from Sacramento, but the other truth is it's a much less hit than we thought we might. There is going to have to be some accommodation. You're going to go through a serious budget year like we did last year, monitoring everything, not approving additional appropriations. But I think this is part of what we had done as good faith bargaining. It was unanimously recommended by the EERC, which sits the mayor as part of it in a hard negotiation. So I think we should approve it today and move on, again, with all of our partners, all of our city employees, in looking at those cuts and those issues in terms of managing the budget as we go forward.
Thank you very much, Ms. Misikowski. Mr. Stein.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I ask the ramifications if we don't approve this from the city's position? I understand it's already been ratified by the...
It has been ratified by the members of our Police Protective League. The ramifications is that we will not have a contract, a successor MOU with our rank and file in the Los Angeles Police Department. There are other ramifications that one can probably speak to. It's, I know that this COLA is something that represents a monetary impact on the city, but yet the city has also invested millions of dollars in trying to improve our ability to recruit and retain officers. Typically, when we look at any contract process, there's a cost of living increase, but we also look at whether or not we can take steps to improve that issue, the recruitment and retention of officers, recruitment and retention of staff in any particular classification. This COLA and this contract, because it also includes an increase in the health subsidy, but more important, well, let me say something else, but this is designed to enhance our ability to retain and recruit. There's another issue I need to emphasize. This contract gives the chief significant authority in the assignment of detectives. Right now, under the prior contract, he has very limited flexibility. This virtually gives them total flexibility in the assignment of detectives to address high crime areas and operational needs. Once it's approved, he can literally take a detective who works your typical day shift and say you're working weekends, or now I'm moving you to the valley, or now I'm going to move you to South LA or to East LA or to wherever. The flexibility for the assignment of detectives is unprecedented here in the city with respect to our contracts with the rank and file.
And I understand that the COLA is a 2, followed by a 3, followed by a 4.
Yes, it is.
And there are conditions in the event that the fiscal impact is worse than we anticipate for the city to renegotiate further down within this contract.
Yes, there is.
There are safeguards within.
Well, there is ability to go back to the table to, at either side's request, either management or labor, to look at any aspect of the MOU, including future COLAs.
So we would have a safeguard built in this contract in the event we need to call that safeguard.
Yes, we'd have the ability to go back and revisit any aspect of the MOU.
And I think with Councilmember Parks' concern about the sidewalks and the trees and the streets, et cetera, I also hear concerns about crime and violence and murders, and I see rewards posted frequently in various parts of the city, including the southern part of the city, for murderers who are killing innocent people. I know what's happening in the 10th district, I know what's happening in the 8th district, I know what's happening in other districts as far as crime. And I know that Chief Bratton is attempting to move the department forward to address those issues. And I would say that if we don't approve this, it would be not only a major blow to the morale factor, but a major blow in the impact that we're trying to have by reducing crime citywide. So I think that after the painstaking task that we have gone through with trying to improve public safety in the city of Los Angeles, and what happened with the EAA contract where they were 2 years behind schedule, I frightened to think what would happen if this was delayed. To me, public safety is the #1 priority that we must maintain in the city, and I would ask that we approve this. I know that there are dollars invested here. I know that the health subsidy needs to be improved because I received calls regarding the increase in the cost of the health care for the members of the department, where that money is now from another checks as of July 1st. There was a major increase in their health costs. So I would ask that we support this, we approve this, and we continue to maintain strong public safety and continue to maintain the movement forward with the LAPD to be a progressive professional agency to safeguard the people in our city. I would ask for an aye vote on this contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zion. For those following in the audience or at home, we're discussing before us right now the 2003 to 2006 Memorandum of Understanding for police officers. That's their contract, and COLAs are cost of living adjustments. Mr. Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I too rise in support of the MOU that's before us for approval. I think Mr. Zukowski gave a lot of very helpful and very significant background to this. We have been through a negotiation process. We have been through an ERC process. We have been through a ratification by the labor group, and to begin to veer towards a different course, I think either really will or symbolically will lead us down a path that is not consistent with the good faith that the city has shown in the past and must continue to show in the future. I want to point out a couple of things. And first of all, acknowledge that if we get too much into the negotiation of what was on the table back and forth, that would require a closed session discussion. But I think some of the merits that are very obvious and appropriately shared in open session should lead you all to believe that we can vote on this today. We should vote to approve this today. First of all, a concern about 2%, 3%, 4% in future calendar years, I think is appropriate. I think it's, especially this upcoming year, it's a 2%. We had the mayor's proposed budget several months ago had it at 1.5% initially, so we're within the realm of what was budgeted for this already. These aren't additional unexpected expenditures. We knew this was coming. There's money set aside for this. There is, to be very significant, as Mr. Zine pointed out, a reopener clause here. Language in this contract that should something happen within the city's control or outside the city's control, more importantly, that puts the city in a financial dire situation, that we go back to the table and work this agreement. But we need an agreement in place so that we can move forward. But the biggest piece is we can't just look at the 2, 3, 4% dollar figures without the context in which they're in. How does it compare to other agencies? Well, let's compare other elements of it to other agencies as well, such as retirement contributions, something that represents a significant dollar value, where the city of Los Angeles, would have much more of a fiscally conservative element compared to other agencies, or some of the non-financial elements of the package, including elements that the union agrees to give to the chief and the department much more flexibility in terms of deployment and resource allocation. You can't put a dollar figure on the other improvements that have come out of this proposed MOU that will allow for not just happier officers, but a better police department and better policing of the city of Los Angeles, and as a result, a safer city. So I think this is a very good agreement that has been negotiated and brought to us for consideration, and I would hope that we can act on this today and we vote to approve this matter today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Padilla. Councilmember Ludlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I wanted to take a moment just to reflect on last night. I know many of you, as I did, participated in National Night Out, and there probably is no more apropos example of how the community feels about their line police officer. I went to 5 myself, and what an experience to see people of every ethnic background joining together to march through their neighborhoods with their senior lead officers, with their line officers. And the message was very strong and compelling to me last night, that Angelenos are asking for this city council and this city to increase the police presence, that we want to send a message to the line officers that we're glad you chose the LAPD. We're glad you didn't head to the Sheriff's Department. We're glad you didn't go to other parts of Southern California. President Padilla just mentioned a minute ago about the morale. Councilmember Zine mentioned the morale. I want to echo that. I think one of the greatest challenges we have before us, if we want to get this department up to a level of staffing that is adequate with the size of population that these men and women are being asked to patrol, we've got to get to the heart of the morale. And at the end of the day, it is a pocketbook issue. If they can get better benefits, better pay in other parts of the city, state, or country, the region or the country, they will go. They will leave us. And so I rise in support of this MOU, and I want to thank the members who participated in the negotiation process. It is never easy. I appreciate the fiscal issue that our colleague is raising, but at the end of the day, our ability to reduce crime in Los Angeles and make sure that business feels like this is a city that they want to do business in is going to overall impact the fiscal solvency of the region. And so I rise in support and appreciate the spirit in which this contract has been negotiated between management and labor.
Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. Fujioka, you made a comment when you were making your presentation about the contract giving the chief more flexibility in deployment and assignment in response to caseload. Could you just say that for me one more time?
It gives the chief more flexibility in the assignment of detectives. Right now, the current procedure that's in place limits his ability to move staff to, we have Commander Perez here, to move staff to different shifts or different divisions, different work schedules, but this new contract gives him significant flexibility. And we have the commander who's head of employee relations for LAPD here to provide some specific examples.
Good morning, Commander Mark Perez, Employee Relations Administrator. I heard you asking the question about what's the difference now between this contract and before regarding deployment. The most significant difference is the deployment of nighttime detectives. The Chief of Police has been adamant that he wants to deploy detectives at nighttime, and the reasoning for it is because he wants experts in the field at the time the crimes are being committed for very quick follow-up and apprehension.
Let me ask you a quick question, just to interrupt. Based on your year-to-date statistics, can you tell us which police division has the highest, greatest backlog with the commensurate with the highest homicide rate?
No, I can't. I don't know the numbers.
Okay. You got any ideas?
No.
Really?
No, I'm not. I don't guess. I don't deal with those.
Can help you out.
No, I don't deal with those aspects. What I deal with is the negotiation of this part of the MOU.
Okay.
But I wanted to emphasize that point because changing shifts, changing assignments, changing the manner in which we deploy staff is something that is very difficult to achieve through the bargaining process. And that, for us, represents the greatest achievement for this.
Let me just say this. I'm going to support this today because of this key issue which I'm attempting to put out here for not only us to take a close look at, but for the public to understand if we are truly wanting to be responsive to the needs of our community. And I would dare say that in 77, we have the greatest challenges and probably the most significant backlog when it comes to homicide rate. That the motivating reason for me to be supportive of this is the opportunity that it gives to the chief to redeploy and reallocate resources to be responsive based on need.
Yes, indeed, that is exactly what this is.
So I'll be looking at that very closely as we proceed in the implementation of this. Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to reiterate something I think I heard from Mr. Fujioka yesterday, and that is that we had budgeted for $17 million of the $20 million that this contract's going to cost this year. Is that correct?
It's a little bit less than 17 million. It's about between 16 and 17 million.
So,
yes.
But most of this was budgeted for a very little element that's a gap that we have to fund, right?
There is a gap. But we did anticipate an increase in the COLA, and as a consequence, we added that money to the salary accounts for this department.
But to be fair, if you extend this contract to the captains and above. No, go beyond the police department to the fire department for roughly the same amounts and the same health subsidies, and you use it for the command staff as well. The gap in this year's budget is about $15 million. In future years, in the following year, it won't be, but there's an additional, that same 15 would have to be carried over. I don't want, I think that the fiscal consequences were outlined by Councilman Parks very well. I agreed with all his analysis except his conclusion. I still think we should approve the contract, but I think his analysis of what fiscally this does is absolutely accurate, and we will have to make compensations for it. And roughly, as opposed to what we budgeted for, is $15 million in this year in round numbers, and next year it'll be that same 15, but we will, and we still have the problem we've had. To whatever extent.
The problem magnifies next year.
Well, we mentioned that
to deal with that issue.
Yes, at Budget and Finance, we spoke to this as being an issue of priorities, and there will be a consequence. And what Ron laid out is absolutely accurate. There is that mean?
Your magnetic
Is it,
personality.
there's a cost associated with this above and beyond what was budgeted? We will be coming back to you again on recommendations that not only how we will address the shortfall as a consequence of the state budget, but how we will address all of our budgetary needs as we see it in our first financial status report.
And I think that's the bottom line, is for the councils, we have to listen to our financial advisors who are saying, we can deal with this, we knew about most of it, we can correct accordingly, and will. And it's a matter of priorities for those of us sitting around this horseshoe to say to our constituents that when given the choice of making smooth streets or safe streets, in this contract we chose safe streets. And we'll talk about the other issues as they come forward, as fire and other units of the city. But as council members, we have to reconcile to our constituents that we're willing to give up a few things that are less important for the most important thing we do, and that is provide a police presence. And if we lower the ability of LAPD to attract officers, if we lower our ability to go out and recruit, if we stop recruiting, then we're going to start settling for whatever walks in the door instead of having a good option for officers, or people that want to be officers, so that we attract the best instead of just whatever we can get because we're not competitive. So this allows us to keep competitive in the marketplace for the best police officers we can hire, and it keeps our employment, our recruiting process level through the year, because if we stop offering a good contract, they stop coming here. We found that in the past. It's happened to us before when we didn't give a good contract, when we fell behind other units around the area, and people went to those other departments. This keeps us competitive in the market. It keeps people wanting to be LAPD officers, and that is the bottom line. We've got to keep people coming here. We've got to keep those classes full. We can talk all we want about deployment formulas, but the bottom line is you don't have people to assign. It doesn't matter what your formula is. We've got to have people, and this keeps the people coming here. So I thank the ERC for voting unanimously, and to see Mr. Fujioka and Mr. Deaton agree on the contract is also a very nice thing. So I think we need to go with this. Thank you.
Mr. Labange.
Question.
Previous question has been called. We do have two members wishing to be heard for the very first time. Mr. Labange.
Well, since you want to hear from two others, you got to hear from me then.
3 minutes.
No, I'll just go two. I'll let everybody speak. This is America. But I think it's all working forward. It's all working forward. Yes, there could be a dark cloud in the horizon, but that's what we're here for, to look out, to build relationships throughout, whether it's in Washington or Sacramento or up the street with the county or whatever the case may be. But I think it's very important that those who were there tonight at 2:15 in the morning on Hollywood Boulevard know that what their efforts have been made through their leadership, through the work of the CAO, to the work of everyone in the ERC, is something that's fair and important for those who are working as men and women of Los Angeles police officers. And I know after this, I want to make sure that we consider strongly the needs of the men and women of the Los Angeles Fire Department who are there. And there will be others who are there, so we'll have tougher decisions to make as this time comes forward. But right now, I think it's very important that we go forward with this. I do like, and I do want to say this, that the organization has opened up their concepts and ideas to reorganizing people within the department. We are here to serve the public. We are here to serve the public. Whatever position we have, whether it's council member or police officer, sanitation worker, park ranger, librarian, we're here to serve the public. Right, Mr. Deaton?
Absolutely.
Right. We're here to serve the public. And I think that's important that those who do serve the public know that we will work hard to try to make sure that things are right for everybody. And it's not always a perfect time, because every time there's a potential for a cloud. But it's for those of us who have to work in the long range, we make sure that we're fair with people. And that's what I like a little about what has taken place in the last 20 months that I've been on this city council. 21 months, is that it has been very fair and focused, and our CAO has done a wonderful job, and your staff has done a wonderful job, Mr. Deaton, all of you in the various units that have come forth to try to resolve differences, to move forward and to serve the public. Thank you very much for the 2 minutes, 48 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Mr. Villaraigosa.
Yes, members, I want to thank Council Member Parks, the chair
Budget and Finance for bringing this matter to the council. I think it's important for us to have a discussion about the financial health of the city and the impact of negotiations and, labor agreements on that budget outlook. I do, however, after hearing some of the discussion today, side with the idea that we should move the motion forward. And I do because in the court, first of all, these negotiations have transpired over a period of time, and in many ways, this train has left the station, everyone. They've negotiated, they've had a back and forth. Importantly, there's been an agreement to address terms and conditions of employment with respect to detectives. Some of us have raised the issue of the need to address the unsolved murders in South Bureau and Central Bureau. This agreement gives the department the flexibility to address this situation, to put more investigators and detectives. I know Mr. Baker is a Detective 3, I believe. It gives them the ability to concentrate those detectives where we need them the most, at the crime scene, at a homicide scene. Because of that, I urge our members to support this motion. But I do think we cannot forget the admonition of Councilmember Parks. So this isn't play money, everybody. This is real dollars. We're going to have to make some tough decisions. Many of us want to see more police department members on our streets. We're going to have to grapple with these issues. But I do move this motion or support this motion because I believe that the train has left the station. They've negotiated in good faith. They've been able to change some terms and conditions of employment to give us the flexibility we need to fight the crime and investigate the homicide.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. I do believe we have a real strong basis for maintaining our fiduciary responsibilities. I think the warnings have been well heeded. But as I look at the notion of public safety, I look at the notion of how we enhance our tax base, what will do that are safe streets. And you look at the untapped potential in many of the areas of our city that do not have the kind of police protection that's needed given the level of crime that's in those locations. Imagine if those corridors, imagine those areas that have the ability to capture the money that are leaking out into nearby cities, that essentially takes away from our tax base. It's a very critical issue. And it starts with public safety. If we have safer streets, people will feel more comfortable walking in our city streets, spending their money to support our tax base. The assumption is that that'll increase the size of the pie for our revenues to run this city. But it's a very fundamental understanding that we need safer streets to do that. Now, what really attracts me is the fact that we are giving the chief more flexibility in coordination with the unions to allow for the fluidity of these resources to move where the crime is existing and to move in the time frames in which they occur. So when do people spend their time and money with their families? It's on the weekends. But guess when the police aren't there. It's in the weekends. We're finding out that detectives, we're finding out that our police officers are not going to those locations where the criminals, the gangbangers are hanging out. That doesn't allow for the families to essentially walk down the street, go down to that ice cream parlor, or spend their tax money in our city. They're going to Glendale, to Pasadena, to Burbank, and we are losing for that reason. So it just makes sense to me that we provide that flexibility to the chief, that we work with the unions, we continue working on an approach that allows us to capture our tax base and keep it in our neighborhoods, and safe streets is key to that. So I stand to support moving forward on this understanding, knowing that the rest of the city family has to kowtow and look at how we make ourselves more desirable to increase our tax base. Thank you.
Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a couple of questions, and if you don't mind time doing the answer, and then I have a couple of comments. Bill, could you tell us on this comment on the flexibility, how did the department lose that flexibility on deployment initially?
I don't quite understand your question with
Part
respect
of the
to...
negotiation is to allow officers to work, detectives, particularly the weekend and nights. How did that not occur in the past?
That was, well, based on the, maybe we have Commander Perez speak to it, but based on what was in the MOU, the chief at that point in time did not have the flexibility to assign staff, or to move staff to night shifts and weekends and whatever at virtually a moment's notice. So, Commander?
Morning, sir. How are you doing? The difference between the way it was done before and the way it was done now in this current MOU is that in the past you had a couple of nighttime detectives that were assigned to each area. You now have a minimum staffing of 4 at night, which means you have to have actually more detectives than 4 on any given night in order to staff the 4, including 1 supervisor. That also applies, it changes the working hour starting time. So before it started around 2 in the afternoon for a PM watch detective, now it starts at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That gives us 24-hour coverage because we have the opportunity to move 3 hours before and afterwards. It also allows us to have, if we have a crime problem in a particular area, to move assets into there very quickly without having to wait 24 days or giving notice.
I know, I understand the flexibility. I'm trying to find out what is our history of why we weren't able to do that in the past.
Because of the MOU didn't allow it. The MOU limited.
That's the point I
I
want to make.
understand that attempts were made, but there's a resistance from, to agree to that change in the past.
So what I'm getting to is that the same union negotiated not to allow that to occur, and this body agreed with it in years past. And we're basically come today and say now we want to go back to where it was before we locked in shifts. And we locked in the inability to deploy them when the need was. So we actually are undoing a previous MOU.
Essentially, yes. You're right, essentially, yes. Yes.
The other thing I want to, for just clarity, on the reopener, what does that mean in the sense of,
we have a side letter signed by both management and the president of the PPL that allows us to reopen the MOU to address any aspect of the MOU, which will allow us to go back to the table. Absent that letter, we can only ask, but they can refuse. But with a letter, if one side should ask, we're required to go back to the table to negotiate that specific issue.
okay, but whatever you negotiate has to be agreed on by both sides. So the reopener doesn't say automatically you're going to make changes.
No, you're correct. It does not allow us to go to impasse, but it does allow both parties to mutually agree on coming to the table. Without that, one party can refuse to come to the table.
I'd just like to make my final comments. I think what's important is this issue of flexibility is important, and we struggled for years to get that. But we also have to realize the reason we didn't have it is that it was a part of a negotiation in the past that limited our ability to move detectives, which was agreed on by this council. And so we suffered for about a 10-year period with that lack of flexibility. The other thing is I think it's important that we understand that the reopener doesn't guarantee anything other than discussion. And last couple of comments, that 15 million gap is significant for not only this year, but the future, that we do not have the resources. And I think what we also need to clarify by many statements that were made today, that the raise does not expand the department. We're not adding more people, and in fact, I think in the budget discussion yesterday, we pretty clearly were told that the items in the UB we probably realistically will never get to, and now this will add a barrier to even further consideration, if I understood that correct. And so I think when we look at this issue, and I agree, as Tom Laban says, we're here to serve the public, but I don't think we can keep serving them by cutting resources adding fees and giving employees higher raises. And I don't think we can continue to say that we'll agree to this one and we'll get tough on the next one, because the next one doesn't ever seem to get here. And so I would just say that as we move forward in those budget cuts that will come up in the next week or so, that we have made our situation more difficult by putting a significant expenditure of $80 million plus over the next 3 years to add to the $300 plus million that's already being speculated on. So when we have those tough choices to make, we can't say it wasn't done unconsciously. It's something that we've done very consciously.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Other members wishing to be heard on this item? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes, 1 no.
That is approved. It's in that matter forthwith, please.
That is an ordinance, so it will go over 1 week.
Holds over for a second reading 1 week from today. Let's then adjourn the special meeting and return to the regular meeting agenda. Next item, please.
Now's the time for public comments.
And we do have public comment for today. The council calls forward Leonard Wayne Rose Jr.
Good afternoon, board members. Leonard Wayne Rose Jr. This Saturday, they're going to have a Dodger game, a Royal Ranger, our church arena, 70 guys. Our Royal Ranger color guard will be presenting the color at the Dodger game. This is going to be national television game. It's going to be on TV. Come and support our Royal Ranger. And LA Dodger and Chicago Cubs, and come early and enjoy the Royal Ranger open ceremony. To find out how one of the Royal Rangers participated in the open ceremony. This paper here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This concludes public comment for today's meeting. Mr. Clerk, next item, please.
Still on the desk are the closed session items. Do you wish to do some housekeeping?
Let's do housekeeping.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Motion shall be posted and referred.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Cardenas requests to be excused Tuesday, September 9th for city business, meets policy.
Mr. Cardenas is excused.
Councilmember Glover requests to be excused on Wednesday, August 13th to leave at 11:30 for city business, meets policy.
Ms. Gruhl is excused.
That clears the desk.
Okay, colleagues, before adjourning into closed session, let me announce that on items 36, 38, and 42, Councilmember Parks is recused. He will not participate in closed session or in public session should action be required by those items. On the balance of those items, all members are expected to participate. With that announcement, and in conformance with California law, the council will now adjourn into closed session. Guards, please clear the chambers. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith, please.
On item 39, there's a recommendation to approve a settlement in the amount of $170,000 in the case of Gillette versus City of Los Angeles.
Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Mr. Parks has now rejoined us. Next item, please.
On item 40, there's a recommendation to approve a settlement in the amount of $135,000 in the case of Povac Investments Incorporated versus City of Los Angeles.
Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith, please.
On item 41, there's a recommendation to approve a settlement in the amount of $1,900,000 in the case of City of LA versus 7th Street Warehouse and 7th Street Warehouse versus City of LA.
Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That is approved.
That does clear the desk.
Colleagues, are there any announcements today? Any announcements? If not, please rise for adjourning motions. Adjourning motions, beginning with Mr. Labange.
Thank you, members. I think we all should adjourn in memory of Los Angeles County Sheriff Steve Sorensen, who died tragically this weekend while investigating a trespassing complaint up in the Lake Los Angeles area, North Los Angeles County. He grew up in Manhattan Beach and became a lifeguard after high school, enlisted in the Army and became a military police officer, and then came to work as a lifeguard again. He joined the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and he was a deputy in the North Desert area, not far from where he lived and worked. And it is a tragic story of a hardworking peace officer in this county who went to investigate what appeared to be a simple trespassing complaint turned into where he was brutally murdered, taken and driven in a car, which was then abandoned 5 miles from the location of the call, and the search is still out for the killer. He leaves a wife and also a child, and I ask that we all adjourn in his memory. Los Angeles County Deputy Sheriff Steve Sorensen.
All members. Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, I have 4 adjourning motions today. First of all, Jimmy Relis, a staff member who works for our Director of Finance, Antoinette Cristoval, passed away at age 51 on Friday, August 1st. He was employed by the City Office of Finance since January of 2000. He was born February 1952, began serving in the Air Force, and on July 1st, 1971, received his honorable discharge. He was deeply missed by his family and colleagues. Funeral services are planned for Angeles Funeral Home on Friday, August the 8th at 10 a.m. Also, during the memory of Karen Torrance, born February 21st, 2003. Sorry, that can't be 2003. 47 years before 2003. Passed away age 47 on August 2nd, 2003. She's a loving wife, mother, grandmother, and will be missed. Funeral services are pending. She leaves her husband, Florence Torrance, and a variety of and host of other relatives. The next one is in honor of Willa Mae Poston, who is the sister of Congresswoman Maxine Waters. She was born October 3rd, 1936, passed away at age 66 on Thursday, July 31st, 2003. She has 4 children, 12 grandchildren, and 10 great-grandchildren. Funeral service will be in St. Louis, Missouri on Friday, August the 8th. And then the last journey motion in honor of Raymond Campbell, who was born September 3rd, 1913, passed away at age 89 on May 22nd, 2003. He was born in Bunkie, Louisiana, received his education in the state of Louisiana and joined the Army, where he was served during World War II. After receiving his honorable discharge, Mr. Campbell worked for the railroad for several years and eventually moved to Chicago, where he later met and married Lucinda Therese on August 16th, 1953. He spent 25 years of his life in Opelousas, Louisiana, and he leaves a host of relatives.
Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. After a full and rewarding life, Rose Lipsman passed away peacefully on Friday, August 1st, 2003. She was a beloved mother, grandmother, and mother-in-law. A survivor of the Holocaust, she will be remembered for always trying to keep up the morale of those around her and was a survivor to the end. Services will be Monday at Hillside Memorial Park at 4 p.m. In lieu of flowers, contributions may be made in her name to B'nai B'rith Women or the American Heart Association. Preceded in death by her husband Simon and survived by her daughter Francine Lipsman Tansey, son-in-law Michael Tansey, and grandsons Samuel Ross. She will be missed.
Other tributes? Mr. Zine.
Mr. President, colleagues, request we adjourn in memory of Judge M. Peter Katsourakis. The judge was born February 20th in Colorado. After a career as an attorney, he was appointed judge by then Governor Edmund G. Pat Brown and presided in small claims court for over 12 years. He was a resident of Tarzana since 1960, the original Los Angeles Municipal Small Claims Court judge, and inspired ABC's courtroom show, The People's Court. While working in small claims court, and the term People's Court was coined because people always got a fair share, a fair shot in his courtroom. He was a longtime advocate for the little guy. Judge is survived by his wife Martha, son Jason, daughter Donna, brother George, sister Angie, and many nieces and nephews. May he rest in peace.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Any final tributes? Thank you all very much. Prior to adjourning, let me announce that we do have this morning Rules Committee standing in recess. Members of that committee and other members who are interested, that committee will reconvene shortly in room 1050. 1050. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.